That's right, everybody. Episode 16 of the Sensible Living Podcast and Blog. I'm your host, Michael McGregor, SLPB. What are we going to talk about today? Okay, sounds simple. Or not so simple. Let's talk about building your community. So we talk about the survival situations. We're talking about shift scenarios, super zombie volcanoes, all that stuff, EMPs, martial law, end of the world. We got to get out of town. So let's take an example of the situation, the scenario that happened inside of a wonderful novel written by Jeff Kirkman and Jason Ross. It's called Black Autumn. I urge each and every one of you listening to this to get that in either book form, audio form, but Black Autumn. Great book, great series. They got they have little novellas that go with it called The Travelers and all this. And the basic premise of this is it's a black swan event. And some of you may be wondering, what in the world is a black swan event? So take, for instance, World War I. World War I was it engulfed the world. The Great War. The war to end all wars. World War I. All of a sudden, toward the end of it, is when it really kicked in. It actually happened during it. The Spanish flu. That wiped out, what? Off the top of my head, it wiped out, what? A third of the population? So that's a black swan event. We recently had another black swan event, the housing crisis. That wasn't the only thing that happened. There was actually a cyber attack done prior to that, and that hit at the same time. So you got the subprime mortgage, fiasco. You got a cyber attack. That was a black swan event. It's like in the middle of the Depression, boom, the Dust Bowl. So we can handle certain situations of crisis, wars, financial crisis, but all of a sudden, if you throw two or three other situations that can compound that and extend that to something even more severe, that's a black swan event. And this nation's, we've had, if I remember correctly, looking at it, we've had about 5 of them. And I'm not going to go over all five right now. I don't have that readily available. I mean, I don't remember everything. I remember a lot, but I don't remember everything. So, black swan event happens. So in this, there was a cyber attack. It messed up Wall Street. Then there was a nuclear attack in Saudi Arabia. Iran just drone striked the major oil refinery in Saudi Arabia. That's kind of scary. That's almost like the book. I mean, they nuked them in the book. Okay? And then a couple of fundamentalists detonated a nuclear bomb in LA Harbor. Those three things come together. And what ended up happening was the truckers union basically shut down the power going into California because of the power plant in Utah, and shit's hitting the fan. You got gangs rising up in Salt Lake City, taking over they're taking over all the rich areas. And come on, let's think about it. Shit hits the fan scenario, financial systems collapse. You're going to have gangs joining up with other gangs taking over areas, and just like in the French Revolution, just in the Russian Revolution, they're going to go after the rich. The poor are going to go after the rich because they believe they are owed. It's always been, historically speaking, it's always been the middle class that creates that buffer between the rich and the poor. And the smaller the middle class gets, the more and more of those tensions will actually build between the poor and the middle class, between the poor and the upper class, the rich. So the gangs, they all get together, they broker deals with other gangs, so they're even bigger. They roll into the rich neighborhoods. They take over. A family thought something through. Prior to this, someone had 200 acres. 200 acres of land. Well, that's a lot of land. Had 200 acres of land just outside of Salt Lake City. Here's the thing to keep in mind. You should have an acre of property for every single person that you plan on. So if you have 250 acres, you can have up to 250 people. Keep that in mind. But he built a community. He networked with people that knew things. Doctors, nurses, paramedics, gardeners, engineers, blacksmiths, bakers. Think about it. Anything you could think about. He networked. In this situation, if this happens, you and your family, how many people are in your family? So I talked to, say, Dr. Bill. Dr. Bill has his wife and 2 kids. So that's 4 people. So now I'm down 4 acres out of my 200 acres. We're going to keep it at like 200 acres. So, but the chief surgeon that I spoke to has a family of 8. I just lost 8 acres because he wants to bring everybody in his family, and the only way he's going to be a part of my community is if he brings all 8. Also part of this community, maybe knowing a few military personnel, special forces, someone out of Special Operations Group, SOG. We're talking, I'm not necessarily talking about the so-called tip of the spear, Force Recon, Marines, hoorah, Rangers, Navy SEALs. I'm talking more of what was known as the advisors. We're talking, those that, the green beanies, the green berets, Delta, those, in the unit. Those that were known primarily as the advisors. The ones that go in and train. Not the hammer hitting the nails. Don't get me wrong, I definitely want friends with those, and I have quite a few friends that are, Navy SEALs, Force Reconnaissance, Scout Snipers, Rangers. I sit there, I love everything that our servicemen have done. Sensible Living podcast and blog, we support our troops, plain and simple. We might not always support what our government is doing, but we do support our young men and women in uniform that, do the bidding of the government. So, when people, if I'm against, say, a war or something, I'm not a big fan of this, war we got going on. I'm not a big fan of it. But man, I love my troops. We're a big fan of the troops. I can support my troops without supporting a war. I don't, they don't needlessly have to go out and die. But I digress. So, having someone in special operations, having those that served in the military to work as security and to train other personnel for jobs. So to train others to do jobs, because I do believe that everybody in the group should be trained on a handgun. However, I don't want my surgeon, I don't want my chief nurse, I don't want, my main providers, bumpy road, sitting going out there on patrols where, oh shit, we ran into some people and they wanted what we got and they started firing. Doc got killed. He's our main surgeon. What do you mean he got killed? Well, he was forced out on patrol because so-and-so thinks that everybody should patrol. But no, I don't want my chief of medics, I don't want my chief doctor, my resident, my top surgeon on a patrol where his life could be killed or taken from him. I don't need him dead. Plain and simple. Hey, if I got a top herbalist or some, virologist, or something, our main engineer that can get the stupid shit working, I don't want them killed. I want them away from battle. That's why we have a security force. That's why we have a security team. However, I do want them trained in handguns, because if anyone ever got into our community, I want them to be able to defend themselves, but I'm not sending them out, on, search and reconnaissance, resource gathering missions. No, that's why we have a security task force within the community. So that's at least my perspective. So, and you got family members, you got to have people working, people doing stuff. You're going to have to tend the garden, and that goes back to your food storage. What is our food storage designed for? Our food storage is designed to tie us through until we can get our gardens and everything running. Plain and simple. So think about your community, your 200-acre community. On that, hopefully you're able to kind of maybe make a reservoir, tap into an underwater river that you can fill up a reservoir. That's there. You got water supply. Maybe it's near land that you can actually hunt, but get this, think about this. The cities, I live in Colorado. I live 15 minutes away from the foothills. I live 30 minutes away from hunting grounds. Also, so does everybody else in my city, outside city, suburbs, surrounding suburbs, and so on. Within the first few weeks, you are going to have anybody and everybody attempting their chance. They're going to be hunting. They're going to deplete those deer, and I don't even worry about elk. Elk's too damn smart for the most part. They hear a twig break and the bull's gone, the cow's gone. But deer are stupid. I mean, you can fire 3 or 4 shots at a deer, and it'll look at you like, what? Huh? Is that coming for me? You can actually sight your rifle in on on the deer. Not recommending that, please. My God, animal lovers, don't think I'm doing that. Hunters, don't think I'm doing that. It's a joke. You sight in at the range, but I've seen people take shots at deer, miss them, dirt fly up, deer looks around, takes another shot, misses again. It's like, is the dude sighting in his rifle? Finally got the deer. Good for him. He's got some food for his family. So the deer and all rabbits and all that are going to be just hunted out or hunted out. They're going to be scared away. You got to think about that. Is anybody and their brother's mother, they're going to start rolling up. And you got to decide on your community. Do you have a perimeter? Do you want to be sharing? And so building your community, having your garden. Many of you may know I am a big fan of the Mormon faith. I am not a Mormon, but I'm a big fan of some of their scripture and some of their laws, or however you want to put it. I'm not a theologian here. I don't know every little term, but they within their scripture, every family is to have a year's supply of food, and part of that is wheat, and having a wheat grinder, and you know what, storing your wheat and grinding it and being able to make stuff is part of your community. You can get kids and the elderly working on that. That's within your community. Because here's the thing, I am not a fan of socialism. I am not a fan of communism. I'm just not a fan of that stuff. Plain and simple. Let's just keep it that way. People that know me, I like capitalism. But here's the thing, society fails. Everyone's got to step up, everyone's got to work, or you're going to have a Jamestown issue. Those of you that don't know history, Jamestown was one of the first settlements that started up, and basically it was fairly wealthy people that sat around, didn't do a damn thing. They died because they didn't know how to cook their own food. They didn't know how to farm their own land. They died. Everybody pitches in a shit hits the fan situation. If society fails, everybody's got to step up. You know what? If you're getting your ass kicked out of the communist community because you don't put enough effort through, guess what? You ain't coming into the community. Everybody works. Everyone has a job. If you do not have a job, one will be appointed to you. And it will be what you're good at. If you're not good at anything, you will be learned what you're good at. If you're still not good at anything, you will grind wheat. Just saying. No, but all joking aside, in that situation, everyone's got to put forth. Everyone's got to work together as a community. We have so many diversive and decisive and differing points of view and directions. We could not turn this country into one gigantic, community where everyone shares everything. It just, it's not going to work. You can have small little communities of sharing, and you know what? As the United States, we are our own unique community, and unfortunately, people are trying to, change that community into something else. But I digress. Let's not go down that rabbit hole. So, setting up your community, you want to make sure that people are doing their jobs. You got gardeners, you got bakers, you got, meat processors, you got security forces, you got doctors, you got things. And, I'm not, hey, you know what, maybe the head of your security force might be a female. So this is no male, female, gender role bull crap. You know what, if a female's good at, killing and getting shit done, then she's out there. I mean, what's her name? Jade Struck. Fantastic shooter. Holy crap. If she was in my community, she would be on the security task force, because my God, that woman can shoot better than most men I know. So, if you're, and you know what, if there's a guy that's a better cook or a better gardener or a better sewer, guess what? He's doing it. Plain and simple. We don't play gender roles in the community. You do what you're good at if you are strong and capable. Also, think firemen, law enforcement, landscapers. All these people are important to the community. Don't just think you have to have a community. Don't think you have to have a pure community of just nothing but military personnel. And not everyone in the community should actually be a military personnel or stuff like that. Plain and simple. You want to have multiple people. You want to have diversity in your group, because you want to have people eating, people gardening, and all that good stuff. So think about that when you're designing your community. Think about the landscape and the areas that you are going to build, all that good stuff. You want to make sure that you have water resources. You want to have hunting resources. You want to have all that good stuff. And with that, I am Michael McGregor, and I am out. Thank you for listening to Sensible Living Podcast and Blog. And you have a great day, and we'll catch you next time on episode 17.